Salutations, everybody. It is Matty here today. I hope you're all doing absolutely excellent, and I got to speak for myself here. I know I'm doing absolutely excellent. I feel like a teenager again, man. Borderlands is such an important series to me, as I'll talk about in a moment here. But you know a game's got you good when you're living your life and you're just thinking about that game while you're doing so. I went to a Mets game just yesterday. I love my New York Mets, even when they're breaking my heart, going on 8-game losing streaks, falling out of the playoffs, putting on a disappointing show. I mean, look, I still love my Mets. Nothing can take me away from my Mets. But Borderlands 4 has managed to make my mind wander even when I'm at the game itself, taking in the atmosphere, eating my hot dog, watching some great baseball. I'm thinking in the back of my head, man, I can't wait to get home and play a little Borderlands 4. That's when you know. But this series is special to me, man, and it's why I was so hard on it with Borderlands 3, Tiny Tina's Wonderlands, especially the movie, because I went, I'm supposed to love this. But if you watched my Tiny Tina's Wonderlands review, you'll know I gave up there. I went, I don't think this is for me anymore. I think it's a series for teenagers, and I connected those dots because I loved Borderlands as a teenager. But playing Borderlands 4, I went, oh, they got it. We'll talk about the gameplay, we'll talk about the storytelling, but this game reminds me of so many of the best elements of Borderlands 1 and 2, which are some of the most important gaming memories I have growing up. Like, Borderlands 1 repaired a friendship with someone I hold very close in my life. Borderlands 2 was like a complete co-op marathon with some of my high school best friends. Borderlands 3 was a co-op marathon. But I'm doing Borderlands 4 a little bit differently. I'm playing it by myself, and yeah, life comes at you fast. It's a little bit strange. I'm going to be honest with you all, like, not to be overly transparent, but to go from this series that I made plans with friends to play to being at this point in my life where it's like schedules don't line up and all right, guess I'll play Borderlands by myself. But that's also why I kind of feel so happy to say, like, I love Borderlands 4 because this is like one of the first times outside of messing around with Borderlands 2 on the PS Vita that I've played Borderlands by myself and I've had a blast with it. So I'm looking to break down my thoughts here after almost 10 hours with the game here. Just some impressions because as I've talked about before, used to cover Borderlands a lot. Borderlands 4 was a little bit of a weird release for me because I didn't feel comfortable committing to a lot of coverage given like I went really in on Borderlands 3 and felt kind of hurt by it. But Borderlands 4 has surprised me in a lot of really pleasant ways. So ladies and gentlemen, if you're new here, you're into what's going on with gaming, all the latest releases, lots of reviews going on here on Retro Rebound. We got a couple on the tube. Go get subscribed wherever you're at. Let's get started though. I gotta talk about the tone. This game reminds me so much of Borderlands 1. So much. It still has some of the goofiness of Borderlands 2. I'll get into that in a little bit. Borderlands 1 was also goofy, but this really does remind me a lot of Borderlands 1. It just grounds itself a lot more, and it's because it has a villain that you can take seriously, and the game actually tries to put the story in front of you in a way where when the villain's yapping in your ear, it's purposeful. It's not just hitting you up and kind of talking a little bit of smack and then disappearing. I mean, we know what happened with the Calypso twins, and hey, I love Handsome Jack. I think one of the best video game villains of all time, but I also see some people getting on their little hater wave with Handsome Jack, and I can at least understand, like, not liking to hear this quirky dude barking in your ear constantly. I get it. But the Timekeeper. Let's talk a bit about the Timekeeper. This dude means business. I mean, from frame one in this game, you're seeing people's spinal cords being ripped out, but he controls what's effectively a prison planet, and he can control all these different people within the prison planet, and he's got a whole game of his own that he's playing. And the way the game, without spoiling, displays his power level and what he can do and how he can accomplish it and how he can turn people against each other, it's really interesting. Like, I have to say, I'm into the story a lot more than I expected to be, but it's also just the general tone of it. It feels like it's made for me. It feels a lot more mature. There's tons of areas just coated in blood, people brutally wiped out. There's this one side quest in the opening zone of the game, which is called Meat for Murder. And it's like, I was waiting for the punchline, and there never was a punchline. I love that. I love that the game is really taking it seriously because it balances out the goofiness. But that goofiness isn't like the very corny Borderlands humor, like where someone's shouting and they're like, well, why are we yelling? Like that kind of humor where you're like, oh God. Yeah. Like teenager humor. I don't know how to describe it, dude. Like, I guess I'm at that age now where I can say that, but like, yeah, just, young kid humor. And so to see Borderlands still having a little bit of that, it's much more digestible and palatable because it's not constant. It's a little bit of a balancing act here now. So now you have the seriousness that can hit harder because the goofiness sort of offsets you, and the goofiness can hit harder because the seriousness offsets you. So it's just this balancing act going back and forth. The tone does so much for the game. And they even have little callbacks. Like, there's a battle track in this game that gets a little yodeling involved in it. And that reminds me of the Borderlands 1 combat music. So they have just little callbacks like that, but it's got the vibrancy and some of the location variety of Borderlands 2. I can't say fully how like the entire open world map is, but I'm just very pleased with the general tone and the direction of the story, because like when Claptrap wakes me up on the beach and just throws like a little thing at me and it duds in complete silence, like I laughed and I went, oh my God, I laughed. Like, yes, dude, like I'm laughing, but then I'm locking in a second later. This is the kind of off balance, dark humor storytelling that Borderlands does so well. It feels like Gearbox really just hit a home run in the tone department. And hey, as you saw in the Borderlands 3 video, like I was really surprised with the tone of the DLC in Borderlands 3, because I had heard it took itself a lot more seriously, and it does. And you can see they learned their lesson from how people critiqued Borderlands 3. And I just want to give them their props on that big time, because look, with Borderlands 3, you could have just went, well, it sold millions and millions of copies. Like, what y'all are complaining about doesn't really apply, but they really put, I think, a much better product out this time around. And that's also because the game feels like a dream to play when it's running well. It took a little bit of tinkering to get this one running right. Had to put a frame limit on DLSS, prioritize ultra performance, turned down the lighting quality to get rid of lumens. I turned up the texture quality. Overall, got the game looking pretty solid while also running a lot better. When I was firing this up though, after the tutorial area, you get into the open world, and right away I went, oh no, like everything was going so smoothly, man. No, it wasn't like really bad, but I was starting to get concerned when, like, within my first hour and a half, my game crashed, and I went, oh, okay. So it's not perfectly stable. And since I haven't played in co-op, I'll just say via hearsay. I just know there's been some issues though with co-op and like syncing progress and lagging and rubber banding. And it's sometimes preferable to just be the host. And so, that can be a problem as well. So it's not all perfect here on the polish front. The performance though, I managed to find a way around it. And for those who are wondering, I'm running with a 3080, 32 gigabytes of RAM, i7 quad core. So I have a pretty decent PC here, but I still had to do a lot of tinkering to get it to a place where it passed the eye test. It ran really well. But that, again, took some work. And I've just been getting a little bit tired of that with all video games, of like, it's a science project for me before I can actually have some fun and get it running just right. Anyway, got it running right. Now I'm playing the game. The movement in Borderlands 3 already felt really good. In this game, it still feels great. I love that the guns immediately feel good. That's always a great sign to me for a first-person shooter, especially a looter shooter, where they usually give you the junk guns up front early on. They kind of went ham with the loot rarity, in my opinion. I was very surprised how quickly I was pulling purples. I got like a legendary item pretty immediately. And don't get me wrong, I think it feels great because it's not like it's raining it constantly, but I got it pretty early. And I just know there's a lot of people who had issues with Borderlands 3 just vomiting like uniques and highest tier rarity loot at you constantly. And so I don't know if that's exactly where this game's going to end up, but I was a little bit surprised, but it also just immediately felt so good to play. The weapon variety, the build crafting, as I'll get into a little bit. I played as Vex. I always play as a Siren. That's always playthrough number one for me in a Borderlands game. Ever since the very first one, I've always been the Siren. And Vex is really cool because she has summons that she can use, but I've gone down the incarnate skill tree, so it's kind of like the traditional phase shift that you got in Borderlands 1, where like Lilith would have this like big explosion of fire when she opened it up. So you can do that with incarnate, and then you can shoot these fireballs that have splash damage. And I just find it really enjoyable to use because then I got like an augment for it, where when enemies got close to me later in the game, I'd start to see these purple strands coming out of me doing status effect damage to them. So anyone who got close to me would start to have their health drained. So eventually when you combine that with the incarnate that I could throw and then my gun, it was awesome. And going down that skill list, I'm really focusing in on a lot of critical hit damage, status effect damage, and it's been a ton of fun because now all of my gun damage, all of my skill damage has a chance to trigger a critical hit, and my critical hit damage I like massively increased. I also massively increased my status effect damage, and so when I activate my action skill, like it all works together beautifully. And what I'm happy to say is that it is one of those paralyzing moments where you go, oh man, like I go down one tree for one character and I can see already so many ways to play her, so many ways that she could work together with other characters, but that it's got me hooked, man. Like it just feels so good to play. And when you combine that with now you have a grapple hook that you can use to get around the environment, but also you can use it to pull in explosive barrels, throw them at enemies. Good for the cannon fodder. I think it works really well there, but it also just feels really good in that sense. You have air dashes, you have double jumps, you can glide now. So the movement just feels so good combined with just fantastic weapons that have their unique properties. Like there's a new tier of weapons called the Order, and this is for, of course, the new villain faction, and you can like charge up all of these weapons and they feel really good too. So just, it's a fantastic first-person shooter. It just reminds me of how I felt playing before Borderlands 3, the Borderlands Game of the Year edition, where it just was slipping and sliding. It felt so good, but I'm addicted. And I'm also addicted because of the game's design, the open world design. When I heard it, this was the one thing that gave me pause. Open world? Oh man, okay, well, I'm not much of an open world guy unless it's a very particular game and 50, 60, 70, 80 hours of loot and shooting. I don't know, but if this first 10 hours was anything to go by, I am so in because it reminds me of open world games in the early 2010s where I guess it's like a little bit Far Cry formula. It's not like you're hitting a tower and you're collecting everything around there, but you do open your map. You do have a big open world to explore where you'll go to like side quests. You'll have silos that you can clear out. These end up being fast travel points, but they're also enemy bases. You'll find echo logs that'll build out the story as Borderlands always has done. There's all different collectibles that you can find to vehicle skins. And what's interesting is Borderlands to me was kind of like the side content would really guide you around the map. And because the games were more confined, what would really happen a lot of the time is you would end up in a certain area and you'd be like, oh, I should have grabbed all the side quests before I came out here. It felt very MMO in that way, where a lot of space in the map felt useless unless your quests were active. But in this game, there's a real sense of exploration because there's tons of enemy bases, collectibles, things to do alongside the typical Borderlands side missions. So it really feels like a game that you can just get lost in as you're exploring the open world, which is what happened to me. I did not expect to see this completionist come out of me where I was ready to just kind of keep going with the main story because I was so into what they were doing. But then I opened my map and I put a pin down on collectible A and then collectible B and then objective C and then side mission over here, side mission over there. And then all of a sudden 5 hours of my life were gone. I was so impressed with how absolutely addictive this game was, but also because this formula, this style of game hasn't jived with me in a while. But I think just combining with the loot, the skill tree, the actual feel of the game, how the content's presented, but also the quality of it, it's really hitting the mark for me. The only thing I really have to complain about at the moment is just working around the performance. I've heard good things about console from friends who are also playing Borderlands 4, but this is that exciting feeling I had when I came home with Borderlands 2 for my Xbox 360 in high school. That feeling of when I was playing it, I can't wait to go through this again and again and again and play as someone different this time. Same thing with Borderlands 1. I remember playing it in the middle of the night. My friend and I got into a big fight over that because we were high school guys, like just stupidest thing of all time. He hit me up one night. He was like, hey, you want to play Borderlands? And we hadn't talked in months. And we were just like, yeah, what the hell are we fighting for anyway? And played all night. And it was that moment where my brain was just exploding with pure excitement and joy of oh, I can't wait to play this differently next time. And we did it again and again and again, and it repaired our friendship in real time. So Borderlands is important to me. I'm so happy to be sitting here going like, yeah, I'm like in, dude. I'm really in. I know, of course, as a game goes on, you know, there will be thoughts and feelings that change, but I do think this is one I feel comfortable alongside what I'm doing with Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, where I'm going to commit to the final verdict style video, even though I know my KCD 2 final verdict is long delayed. I appreciate the patience on that, and given Borderlands 4, it might be just like slightly more delayed. We're getting close to the end of KCD 2. I'm trying to do my best. There's just so much good stuff coming out right now, and Borderlands 4, man, I just can't get enough of it. That's kind of where I'm at right now. Just the world, the tone, writing quality is really solid. The overall game design, just the open world design. I mean, it's doing it all. I did not expect to be sitting here feeling this way about Borderlands again, but it makes me happy because I want to love this franchise, and I realize now they can actually make games for people like me, and so that's really awesome. Again, if they can figure out the performance stuff on PC, that would be fantastic, but otherwise, it's getting some glowing impressions from me. So I'd love to hear from you. How are you feeling about Borderlands 4? Because for me, it was like, upon first shot, I mean, the first cutscene was great. It felt like classic Borderlands. But when they put the gun in my hand, which, by the way, this game wastes no time. Like, it has really good pacing. Wastes no time knowing what you're here for, but it doesn't sacrifice the story. Forgot to say that. But for me, it was just love at first shot. I went, wow, this feels great. This story could suck. This feels great, though. But I'm in, so I'm curious to see where all of you are at. So let me know down below. Other than that, though, take excellent care of yourselves, and I'll catch you in the next one. Stay sexy, stay active. I love you all. Peace.